Now let's make the strap. The strap is completed by crocheting the shrimp stitch. After crocheting, sew it onto both sides of the bag. Please watch me demonstrate the specific crocheting method. Take out the corresponding color yarn. I will still demonstrate with a sample. Leave about 15 centimeters of yarn tail for sewing. Then make the starting slip knot. After completing it, crochet 1 chain. The foundation chain is done. Then make 1 chain as the turning chain for single crochet. Next, work a single crochet into the foundation chain. Pick up 1 loop of the chain like this. One single crochet is completed. Then turn the fabric clockwise. You can see there is 1 loop on the side. Pick up this loop and work 1 single crochet. Continue to turn the fabric clockwise. You can see there are 2 parallel loops below. Pick up these 2 loops and work 1 single crochet. Then turn the fabric over again. Pick up the 2 parallel loops. Crochet 1 single crochet. Let's take a look at the crocheting pattern behind. Every time you turn the fabric, pick up the 2 parallel loops and make 1 single crochet. Continue working following this pattern. Keep going until you reach the desired length. The exact length can be referenced from the chart. You can also adjust it freely according to your preference. Everyone can continue crocheting on your own. After you've crocheted to the required length, simply crochet 1 chain to secure it. Tighten it. Leave a tail of about 15 centimeters. Break the yarn. That concludes the strap. Now let's sew the strap together. The color and length of my sample here are not for reference. Thread the reserved tail at one end of the strap onto a darning needle. Sew on the side of the metal frame ear. You can sew a few times here for reinforcement. This will make it more secure. There's no specific requirement for the sewing method here, just ensure it's securely fastened. After completing, weave in the yarn tail. Cut the yarn. That's how you secure one end of the strap. Attach the other end of the strap in the symmetrical position. Use the same method to sew it securely. Be mindful not to twist the strap. Everyone can complete the sewing on your own. That concludes the explanation of how to install the strap. After the strap is sewn in place, let's start sewing the ears now. Locate the position of the chin on the upper part. It indents slightly here. We will sew the ear onto the other side. The securing position for the ear is below the metal frame. The distance between the two ears is approximately 2.5 centimeters. Now, let's start sewing. Thread the previously left yarn tail onto a darning needle. Be sure that the ears are positioned with the right side facing out. First, set the position properly. Then, start sewing. Similarly, there are no specific requirements for sewing here, just make sure it's secure. After securing the top part of the ear, pass the thread from inside the ear down to a little distance below the ear. You can fasten it twice at the bottom. Once completed, weave in the ends. Break the yarn. That's it, one ear has now been sewn on. Everyone can use the same method to sew on the other ear. This concludes all the sections that need sewing. Leave the arms for now. Set them aside for later use. Up to this point, the main part is fully completed. After completing the main fabric, let's move on to making accessories. The accessories include facial features, garments, head decorations, bottom decorations, and ribbons. Let's start by making the facial features. The facial features include eyes, nose, mouth, and blush. First, let's look at the position for the eyes. The lowest point of the eyes is roughly aligned with one side of the button. The space between the two eyes is approximately 2 centimeters. Let's attach the eyes first. After sticking the eyes, we'll glue the nose. The top of the nose aligns with the bottom of the eyes. There's a post underneath our nose that needs trimming. You'll need to use scissors to cut off the excess part. After trimming it flat, you can stick it on. Place it below the eyes. Everyone should now attach both the eyes and the nose. Once the eyes and nose are stuck on, let's make the mouth now. The mouth is below the nose. Here, we need to sew with a single strand of yarn. First, take a segment of thread. Pull out one strand from it. Then thread it through a sewing needle. Tie a knot at the end of the thread. Secure the tail on the wrong side. Then draw it through from underneath the nose. Insert it on the left side. Tidy up the shape. Don't pull the thread too tight here. Then insert it to the position on the right side. Insert it from a little distance below the nose. Adjust the shape a bit. Then weave in the ends. Cut the yarn. To make sure it's secure, use some glue here. You don't need to apply too much. This way, the mouth is fixed well. After completing the mouth, let's move on to applying the blush now. Apply the blush a little below the eyes and on the ears. The intensity and position of the blush can also be adjusted according to your preference. Everyone can apply it by yourself. Up to this point, we have covered all the facial features. Now let's make the garments. Take a look at the finished product. The garment is divided into the main body, edging, sleeves, and decorations. First, complete the crocheted sections. Then make the garment decorations. Finally, sew them together. Start by making the main body of the garments. We will start from foundation chain for the main body. Work back and forth in rows. Leave out the sleeve holes as you go. Below, please watch me demonstrate the specific crochet method. First, chain 2 to begin. That's how you start. Then work the first row. Find the last single crochet. It's right here. Pick up the top bar and work 1 single crochet. That's how you finish the first row. Now move on to the second row. Start with 1 chain. Then turn the fabric over. Below, you need to make 1 SC2 in 1. Pay attention while crocheting on the wrong side. The stitch is located at the top left. That completes the SC2 in 1, end of the second row. Now let's work the third row. Make 1 chain as your beginning chain, then turn the fabric over. Start with a SC2 in 1. After completing it, continue with 1 single crochet. That finishes the third row. Now work the fourth row. Start with 1 chain as the beginning chain. Turn the work. Work 2 single crochets correspondingly. Then make a SC2 in 1. That completes the fourth row. Let's take a look at the pattern here. Every row starts with 1 chain as the beginning chain. Then turn the fabric and work the corresponding stitches. Follow this pattern all the way to the 29th row. Now let's work the 30th row. I'll demonstrate with a sample here. The number of rows is not for reference. Start with 1 chain as the beginning chain. Then turn the fabric. Work 1 single crochet next. After finishing the single crochet, start working the chains. You will need to work 11 chains in total here. These chains correspond one by one to the single crochet stitches below. Make sure to work the corresponding number of chains. Once completed, start from the 12th single crochet. Work the remaining 4 single crochets. This completes the 30th row. Now move on to the 31st row. Begin with 1 chain as the beginning chain. Turn the fabric. Then work 4 single crochets. After finishing the single crochets, you'll reach the chains. Tidy up the chains here. We will pick the top loop of the chains and start working single crochets. This completes 1 single crochet. Everyone, continue to finish the remaining single crochets. Pay attention to the single crochets worked into the chains. They are all worked in the top loop of the chains. Now I have finished the single crochets in the chains. There is now 1 stitch remaining. Continue and work 1 more single crochet. This completes the 31st row. After finishing, you can check if the stitch count matches the chart. From the 32nd row to the 60th row, work even with single crochets. You can finish it on your own. Now let's move on to the 61st row. Here, I will explain the method. The crochet method here is similar to the 30th row. Start with 1 chain as beginning chain. Then turn the fabric over. Work 4 single crochets evenly first. Then complete with 11 chains. Skip the next 11 single crochets below. Work 1 single crochet in the last stitch. That concludes the 61st row. These 2 positions that you see are where the sleeve holes will be. Let's continue with the 62nd row. The crochet method for this row is similar to the 31st row. Start with 1 chain to begin. Turn your work over. Work 1 single crochet first. Then pick up the top loop of the chains. Work 11 single crochets correspondingly. Then work 4 more single crochets. That concludes the 62nd row. There are no new stitches used from this point onward. Everyone, refer to the pattern and crochet the remaining rows. End with 1 SC2 tog. The side that you finish on is the right side. Up to this point, we have completed the main body of the garment. Now that the main part of the garment is finished, let's work on the edging. There's no need to break the yarn here. Start with one chain. You can see there is a gap between each row. We simply crochet a single crochet into these gaps. There are no specific requirements for the insertion point here, just keep the fabric flat. Everyone, continue crocheting following this method. We will keep going until we reach the armhole. Now we've reached the corresponding position. Here, we need to decrease one stitch on each side of the armhole. The placement for the decrease is approximate. One decrease is completed. Continue with the other one. After completing the two SC2 togs, we pick the gaps and work single crochets evenly. Continue until you reach the other armhole. Now we've reached the corresponding position again. Similarly, here we need to make two SC2 togs. The stitch in position is not fixed. After finishing, continue working single crochets into the gaps one by one. We keep going until we reach the top of the left side. Now we've reached the corresponding position. At the top, we need to work 3 single crochets. Then continue picking the gaps and working single crochets. While crocheting, weave in the starting tail of the yarn. When crocheting the edging, it doesn't matter if you make a mistake with 1 or 2 stitches, just keep the fabric flat. Continue using this method until you reach the top of the left side. Everyone can finish it on your own. Now I've reached the corresponding position. Finally, at the SC2 tog stitch from the corner, crochet 3 single crochets there. Then join with a slip stitch to the first stitch. Pull tight. Break the yarn. Weave in the ends on the wrong side. That's how you finish the first round of edging. Next, we'll edging for the front band. Fold the garment neatly. Find the location of the 3 single crochets at the corner. Start attaching the yarn at the middle single crochet. Take the corresponding color yarn. Draw the yarn through. Chain 1 to begin. Now start crocheting single crochets. Pay attention to weaving in the yarn tail as you go. This row is just single crochets worked into each stitch. We keep going until we reach the corner on the other side. Now I've reached the corresponding spot. Find the middle single crochet of the 3 at the corner. It's this stitch right here. We continue crocheting until we finish with this stitch. Secure with a chain when completed. Break the yarn. Weave in the ends. After finishing this row of single crochets, you need to work another row. Notice that the color of the yarn is different here. Take the corresponding color yarn. Here you need to pick the back loop for crocheting. We call the strand closer to us the front loop. And the strand further from us is called the back loop. That is, this strand of yarn. Start joining the yarn from the first stitch. Draw the yarn through. Make 1 chain as your beginning chain. Start crocheting single crochets. Remember to weave in the ends while crocheting. Note that for this row, you only pick the back loops for crocheting. We will finish this row as well. And with a single crochet, chain 1 to secure. Break the yarn. Weave in the ends. That concludes our tutorial for the edging. Now let's move on to the sleeves. Place the fabric with the right side facing you. The sleeve on the right is called the right sleeve, and this one will be the left sleeve. Let's start with the right sleeve. The right sleeve is divided into 2 parts. The first part consists of 2 fabrics. These are referred to as fabric 1 and fabric 2. Section 2 is crocheted around section 1 by picking up stitches. We will crochet in rounds. Let's start with fabric 1. Fabric 1 involves hooking into the front body. You can see the horizontal bars left from crocheting the chains here. First, we need to join the yarn. The method for joining the yarn is the same. Insert the hook under these 2 strands of yarn. Draw the yarn through. Then, make 1 chain as your beginning chain. Now, start in the same stitch. Crochet 1 single crochet. Remember to weave in the yarn tail while crocheting. You need to work 11 single crochets here. After completing, you can check if the stitch count is 11. That's how you finish the first row. Trim off the excess tail from the starting chain. Now, move on to the second row. Chain 1 to begin. Turn the fabric over. In the second single crochet, make 1 loose slip stitch. After completing, continue to work 8 more single crochets correspondingly. Only 1 stitch remains now. Finish with 1 slip stitch. All slip stitches here should not be tightened. This won't be repeated for the following steps. That concludes the second row. Now, start the third row. Begin with 1 chain as your starting chain. Turn the fabric over. Skip the braid formed by the slip stitch. Locate the stitch of the second single crochet. Start crocheting 4 single crochets evenly. End with a slip stitch for the last stitch. Continue to work on the fourth row. Chain 1 to start. Turn the fabric over. Find the stitch of the second single crochet. Crochet 2 single crochets correspondingly. End with a slip stitch for the last stitch. The fourth row is now completed. Secure with a chain. Break the yarn. Weave in the ends. Fabric 1 is now finished. Now let's crochet fabric 2. Flip the fabric to the back piece side. You can see that there are still 11 single crochet stitches missing here. We will join the yarn at the far right single crochet stitch. The crocheting method that follows is similar to fabric 1. Everyone should first complete the first 2 rows. Now let's start with row 3. Begin with 1 chain. Pay attention, this chain needs to be a bit loose. Otherwise, the fabric will pucker. Turn the fabric over. Locate the third single crochet stitch. Work a slip stitch. Then crochet 4 single crochets. And 1 slip stitch. That's it for row 3. Continue with row 4. Start with 1 chain. Find the second single crochet. Begin to correspondingly make 2 single crochets. Finish with 1 slip stitch. Then cut the yarn. Weave in the ends. This is what fabric 2 looks like when it's completed. It's symmetrical to fabric 1. That completes section 1. Now let's move on to section 2. Section 2 is crocheted onto section 1. You need to pick up 11 stitches from each fabric. We'll join the yarn at the starting point of fabric 1. Start with 1 chain. Then work single crochets along the edge. The insertion points here are random. You just need to pick up 11 stitches. Keep in mind, the placement of the first and last stitch is important. That is, the beginning and ending insertion points of the first row for fabric 1 and fabric 2. This way, the crocheted fabric won't have any gaps. We'll pick up stitches at the corresponding positions and crochet. If the fabric bends a little when picking up stitches, it's not a problem. That's a normal occurrence. I've now finished picking up stitches for fabric 1. Continue picking up stitches for fabric 2. You don't need to crochet the gap in the middle. Follow the same method to crochet 11 stitches. Pay attention to the beginning and ending insertion points. After picking up, check if the stitch count matches the chart. Finally, join with a slip stitch to the first stitch. Tighten. The first round is now completed. For rounds 2 through 11, there are no new stitch methods. Just follow the pattern and crochet as usual. After completing, fasten off the yarn. Now let's move on to round 12. I'll demonstrate the crochet method for round 12 using a sample. Take the corresponding yarn. Here you need to pick the back loop to join the yarn. Draw the yarn through. Then make 1 chain as the beginning chain. Start crocheting single crochets below. While crocheting, remember to weave in the ends. All stitches are worked into the back loops only. We finish this round. End with a slip stitch. Pull tight. Secure with a chain. Leave a yarn tail of about 20 centimeters, then cut the yarn. Up to this point, the right sleeve is completely finished. After finishing the right sleeve, it's time to work on the left sleeve. Please note that, on the front fabric, you will crochet fabric 2. On the back fabric, you will crochet fabric 1. The crocheting method for the rest is the same. Everyone, make sure to finish crocheting the left sleeve as well. Up to this point, we have covered everything about the sleeves. Now let's work on the decorations for the garment. The decorations consist of small flowers and leaves. The sewing positions are all on the sleeves. The arrangement order of the small flowers and leaves can refer to the finished product or be sewn according to your preference. Here, I will use one of the sleeves as an example to explain the sewing method. First, sew on the flowers. The flowers are made up of acrylic blossoms and small pearls. Find the corresponding position. Thread through the sewing yarn. My sewing position here is random. Weave in the tied knot part inside the sleeve. Then exit the fabric. Draw through the acrylic flower and small pearl. Then come out again from the middle of the acrylic flower. That's how you sew on one small flower. Everyone, use the same method to sew on the other flower. Look, I've already sewn on 2 flowers. Next, sew on the leaves. There's no need to break the yarn here. After threading to the corresponding position, directly exit through the hole in the leaf. And sew it on. That's how you secure one leaf. Everyone, sew on the remaining leaves by yourself, and sew on the decorations on the other sleeve as well. Up to this point, we've finished explaining the decorations on the garment. Finally, let's move on to sewing. I'll still demonstrate the method with a sample. Take out the previously crocheted arm fabric. Thread the reserved yarn tail from the sleeve onto a darning needle. Place the arm inside the sleeve. Ensure the slip stitch position of the arm is facing downward. Leave the arm outside the cuff by about 4 rounds of single crochet length. Then start sewing. Sew together by picking up stitches. That's how you sew one arm. Then weave in the yarn tail. Break the yarn. Everyone can finish sewing the other arm in the same way. After the arms are sewn, it's time to sew the body of the garment. First, secure the sleeve in place. Take out the working yarn for the main part. Tie a knot at the end. Fold the garment properly. Sew a bit at the cuff position. After securing with a few stitches, pass the yarn from inside the sleeve to the bottom of the garment. Here, we'll sew the bottom of the garment together using whip stitches. Start sewing from the far right side. Pay attention, while sewing, you need to go through 3 fabrics at once. Check the position as you sew. Continue sewing using this method. Now I've sewn all the way to the leftmost side. Finally, secure the cuff again. You can also sew a single stitch here to secure the garment. After completing the sewing, weave in the ends. Up to this point, we've covered everything about the garment section. Now let's make the head decoration. Let's take a look at the finished product. The head decorations consists of flowers and leaves. The sewing position is near the ear of the metal frame. There are 4 flowers and 3 leaves on each side. The sewing method is the same as the one used for the garment decorations. Everyone, go ahead and complete the head decoration. After completing the head decoration, let's move on to the bottom decoration now. The bottom decoration is attached to the garment. It consists of glass beads, transparent flat beads, and tassels. Below, please watch as I demonstrate the specific making method. First, take a piece of sewing thread. Thread it through the needle. Pass the thread through the tassel. Then, remove the needle. Fold the two tails in half. Thread them both through a thin needle. Then thread on one glass bead. One transparent flat bead. Followed by another glass bead. Now, secure it onto the garment. Locate the centered position at the bottom. Sew a few stitches to secure it well. Then weave in the ends. Break the yarn. That's how you make the bottom decoration. Finally, take the ribbon and exit through the gap in the sleeve. And adjust the shape. For a more secure ribbon, you can sew 2 stitches to secure it at the gap in the sleeve. At the connection between the garment and the body. You can also secure a few spots to prevent the garment from falling off. There's no specific requirement for how to secure it. Everyone can secure it according to your preference. Up to this point, the entire explanation of this metal frame bag is complete. If you have any unclear points during the crocheting process, don't hesitate to join our Facebook group to get supports. Susan's family, supporting your handwork experience, sharing the joy of life. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you in the next episode.